And we are live with another episode of the Miss Marvel Aftershow. We are here talking about episode 4 of Miss Marvel. This is the show brought to you by The Keeg, where we watch the episode when it drops at midnight. Miss Marvel dropped tonight, 6/29. What's that? June. We're in June 29th. That's episode 4. It dropped at midnight Pacific time, and then we're here at 1 a.m. Pacific time to talk about it. I'm your host, Dimitri Pereira, and this would be a boring show if it was just me, but instead, we got Marvel with Rid herself. Rid, how's it going?
It's going good. Thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to talk about Miss Marvel episode 4 here.
Yeah, it's funny because like when we zoom up before the show, it's like we have to I'm like, no, we can't, like, let's save our talk for the show.
Right.
So we don't, like, I don't know, waste it. Not that there's, we're going to run out of things to talk about. But, like, I had you on last week, and how have you been digging Miss Marvel as a whole so far?
Okay, well, I feel like I'm going to be biased when I say this. Like, it's just from, like, the standpoint of all the cultural representation, I would put it at number 1.
Yeah.
But if I just look at, like, broadly compared to all the MCU shows, I think it's like hard because there's, like, I can't put it anywhere else but number 1 just because of how happy I get watching the show and looking at the elements included in the show. It's very hard for me to, like, rank it objectively. I will just look at it in a subjective manner because I have that I have those bias. But yeah, so I would say I'm really digging it. I mean, there's definitely, like, just like when you generally, like, watch a show, there's definitely some things in terms of storytelling and how it's playing out and, the pacing of it. But honestly, I'm just here for all of the beautiful cultural representation we're getting, and I'm digging a lot of that so far. So that's keeping me happy. That's keeping me excited. That's giving me a lot of emotion. So I'm digging it so far.
Yeah. I'm definitely, the way I view movies and TV, it's like, okay, they made a choice. They had a direction. I can't judge them on what direction they chose to go in, but I can judge them on how well they execute that direction, right? So, like, Spider-Man No Way Home wasn't the Spider-Man movie that I wanted. I originally, I didn't want that. I wanted a more straightforward Spider-Man tale. I didn't necessarily need, like, a multiversal thing. Because also, side note, I'm not a big fan of the multiverse in huge doses. And so, like, I didn't want that for Spider-Man. But then I'm like, okay, they chose to go in that direction. Fine. Wasn't my choice, but who am I to say? But I think they went 10 out of 10 in the direction that they went in. Like, I'm like, all right, fine, 10 out of 10. It's not exactly what I would chosen. Just like the Batman, 10 out of 10, but not the direction that I wanted it to go.
Of course.
But it is what it is. Is Miss Marvel, we know the direction it's going in. Is it going like a 10 out of 10 in that direction? Is it full steam ahead?
I don't think so, only because, like, the Miss Marvel comics are something that are so special, and there are certain things from the comics that they've changed that kind of lose the charm in the show. And I know they're trying to tell, a different type of story in the show. Like, they don't want it to be a rehashing of the comics, but I think some elements are a bit too far removed that it loses the charm that it was in the comics. And I'm mostly referring to her powers and this type of origin tale they're going from there so far. And so, no, I would say, like, in terms of the direction they are heading, it's not a 10 out of 10 for me. Probably sitting at, like, an 8 out of 10.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, it's something we talked about last time, and, like, people have been talking about for so long, is, like, the changes in the origin and changes in the powers and whatnot. And we're still kind of seeing it, like, we're here on episode 4, and even after, we finish episode 4, it's like, what is the point of the change?
Exactly.
We had Black Bolt in Multiverse of Madness. So it's not like they were like, oh, the Inhumans can never touch a MCU property ever again. Even though, Black Bolt did. I mean, spoiler alert, I guess, for whoever's watching this or listening to this who didn't see Multiverse of Madness. Weird, but fine. His head did explode. Was that just the last time we're ever going to see an Inhuman then?
Exactly. Like, A lot of things are up in the air.
Yeah, I feel like they brought him back for that. Why didn't they go Inhumans? Again, maybe I'm asking too many questions, and we still have 2 episodes left in the season, and maybe they're gonna pull out some like crazy thing.
Right.
But like, we'll see if those choices pay off. Those changes
Exactly.
in the stuff.
Yeah.
You're a big fan of the comics, right?
Yeah, specifically the Miss Marvel comics. I'm not by any means like a huge comic nerd, but
Yeah. But
Miss Marvel comics, yeah, I really do enjoy. And I just think it would have been a much more simpler story to tell if they just went the Inhumans route, because so far for me, I kind of talked about this. I've been digging every single part of Miss Marvel minus the superhero story, which would be fine if it wasn't supposed to be a superhero show.
Yeah.
Like, I'm enjoying all of her dynamics with her mom, with her, her friends, or just like who she is as a fangirl, and just, the things that she's going through. But episode 3 kind of did rub me the wrong way in terms of the way they were trying to tell the power origin story.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm enjoying the superhero stuff.
Right.
But episode 4, I don't know. I think it made me a bit relieved because it did kind of, lean into the fact that the whole Jin thing is like a red herring. Yeah. But I think I'd have to like wait and see the full story with specifically Aisha before I finally like give my full judgment on, no, the superhero part wasn't well executed. And it's like you said, it's like, are those changes worth it? I think episode 5 will be the one to tell.
Yeah. I don't know whether you said it on when we started or whether you said it before on Zoom, but you said that episode 5 is like make or break. Like that is what's gonna like, we're gonna figure out like, does it like what this series is by episode 5?
I think so, because when you also consider all of the other MCU shows, like episode 5 specifically, from what I remember, Moon Knight, WandaVision, even Loki have all been like a backstory onto our characters. And it seems like Miss Marvel's heading in the same direction, except it's not just a backstory on Kamala, it's a backstory on her entire family. And I think, her entire family is what they've kind of been hinting to, is like, this is something that's been carried out from Muniba's family dating back to Aisha. So once we get that backstory, once we get to understand what happened to Aisha, like that episode will kind of be like the make or break, was like, was the whole buildup worth it? Did it pay off? Or did the whole like change just feel unnecessary? And I think at the end of the day, it's like the type of reasoning that they give for her change. Like, I guess also in a way, it could either be episode 5 or the Marvels movie, because, I don't know what they're trying to do with the Marvels movie. Like the writers have alluded that they did change her powers to make her closer to Carol Danvers. So maybe the Marvels movie will actually be the final like project that'll give the decision of, was the change worth it? Did making her closer to Carol Danvers give still as much of a special story as it did in the comics?
Yeah. Question, because you read the comics. How long does it take for them to go to Pakistan? Like in the comics?
It takes a while, I think.
It's like in issue 20 something.
Yeah, it takes. I know it's after Bruno's injury that they go to Pakistan in the comics. I want to say it's before Civil War, though. I can't remember if it's before or after Civil War, but it's definitely after Bruno gets injured and she's not friends with Bruno anymore that they go to Pakistan in the comics.
Yeah, I'm trying to look. It's issue 12. At least that's when we see Kareem for the first time.
Yeah. So it has 12. To be the.
So I mean, but that's a good. I mean, by issue 12, that's a good like 2 trades, right? That's like 2 story arcs. Then right. The third story arc, I think, is Pakistan. Versus this, like, have we gone to Pakistan too early?
Again,
it depends on what the point is, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's a little hard to tell because I expected episode 4 to give us that backstory, but it looks like they're waiting until episode 5 for that backstory. So that's why I think, again, like, it's kind of a make or break episode 5, because like you said, is it worth going to Pakistan that early in the show instead of like where they waited for the comics? And it's hard to tell. It's hard to kind of pinpoint an answer for me, at least, until I understand like the story that they were trying to tell in terms of like Aisha's backstory.
Yeah. I think that I don't know. There's a couple of ways they could go. Like, I've been calling this since maybe episode 1 or 2. Someone's gonna have to rewind the tapes and listen to the after show on the and see when I was like that. I brought up time travel. I brought up time travel because they do something in episode 1 or 2 when they bring up like somehow she found her way back to the train. Somehow blah blah blah, right? Like when they say Nani's backstory, like she got separated from her from Aisha. I think it was like episode 1 or 2, and they bring it up. I think it's episode 2, and they bring it up, and it's like somehow they do that, but that happens a lot in stories when the main character goes back in time, and they're the reason why their ancestor was saved. I'm thinking like I don't know what I'm thinking about specifically, but it's happened before. But
no,
like,
I can kind of I think I kind of understand. Like, I mean, I hope that's not the case here. I think I'm definitely interested in like understanding what happened. Like, how was Nani saved? How did Aisha escape? All of that. But
I think that's all because of Kamala. I think there's a loop going on. You there?
What do you mean by a loop?
Oh, okay. You cut out. Were you saying anything before?
No, I was just interested in saying, what do you mean by a loop?
Oh, okay. So basically it happens, in time travel fiction where it's just like some unknown thing, and then you go back in time and you were the unknown thing. I forget where I forget what I'm thinking about specifically, but it is
right.
It's like this trope where like there's a mystery of the past and it happens a lot where it's like, and some unknown man came to me and he told me and he kept me safe, and then it turns out that unknown man is you from the future coming back to save yourself. Like it happens a lot in time travel and science fiction or whatever. But in this, it's like when they said that, I'm like, could this show bring in time travel? How? Why? That's so wild. And then they did at the end of this episode. We'll talk about the contents of this episode. I'm just saying that it's wild that we're going to get an episode 5 that takes place in the past where Kamala has gone back in time.
I really hope that it doesn't take that way, because I feel like it's going to overcomplicate the episode even more. I mean, like the show's already been overcomplicated by the fact that they threw a red herring at us with the Jinn and, when the clandestines were out. So adding in time travel, which it's not really worked too well in the MCU. If you look at Avengers Endgame, I think is just gonna probably be the ship that kind of tanks the show because they're just overstuffing it and there's only 2 episodes left.
Yeah.
So I hope they don't take that route. I also feel like I don't know how much on board. I mean, I know the showrunner for one of the co-creators for Miss Marvel is also involved in the production. I don't know how much they would be like willing to pump in so many concepts just into a show about like a teenager at the end of the day, which I hope is not true, that they don't do that. But yeah, I mean, it is a good theory. I just hope it doesn't go in that direction, because we only do have 2 episodes left, and that would make for a really lackluster finale.
So I thought it was a given that at the end of this episode she goes back in time, but are you on the boat of what? It's a vision that she's seeing? Oh.
Yeah, okay. I'm on the boat. It's a vision that she's seeing, because after Najma breaks the bracelet, I'm a little fuzzy on what exactly happens, but after Najma breaks the bracelet, it seems like Kamala is swept into a vision rather than traveling back in time.
Okay. Because I was viewing this whole thing as traveling back in time.
Okay, interesting.
But you're saying it's a vision. Also, so right now we are live streaming to 3 different platforms: volume.com/The Keeg Show, twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, and youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Our chat we pull from volume.com/The Keeg Show, but
Mhm.
Colin L is on YouTube saying she is going to bring her back to the present. Oh, I think I know what Colin's saying there. And then Colin also says, seeming like her bangle is a mini infinity gauntlet. Now, I wouldn't say the bangle is an infinity gauntlet, but it might be doing very similar things, like have some sort of time element to it. But if I'm reading what Colin is saying correctly, Colin is saying that she's gonna bring Aisha to the present. That's why Aisha disappears. She just gets pulled to the present.
Huh. That's actually really interesting. And maybe you're right, then maybe she is traveling back in time because she's gonna bring Aisha to the present, which would...
No, but that doesn't make any sense, right? Because the Red Daggers knew Aisha.
True.
Like Waleed knew Aisha.
Mm-hmm.
He brought her name up, right?
Yeah,
No, Kareem brought up Aisha. He's like, Aisha has the other you stole it off of Aisha? So is Aisha just in Karachi? I don't know. There's a lot of questions that this episode kind of brought up. But let's talk about the contents of the episode itself. I knew they were going to Pakistan in this season. If I was writing it, if I was whatever, I don't know whether I would have put that, because again, that happens in issue 12 of the comic, but it is what it is. We start off with the plane flying into Karachi, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess Muniba and Kamala have a truce, and then we get to meet Nani. How are you liking that beginning scene? We met Nani and we met the two cousins.
Mm-hmm.
They just seem like cousins. They don't seem like that great, but they're like, whatever. They're your cousins, right?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty relatable. I actually, the beginning scene, we found out that Kamala has been grounded, which I know we were talking about on the last time that we were live. We were kind of talking about how Muniba didn't seem like she had any punishment for Kamala and what she's been doing, but yeah. I guess she ended up putting a punishment, which makes the show a little bit more realistic because there's no way she got away with everything she did. So
for years.
Grounded. Yeah. So that was something that it just came to my mind. But honestly, I feel like the beginning scene was pretty nice. I think if we're talking from a cultural perspective, it's weird watching this in an MCU show because it's lived experiences that I've had. I've landed on, well, not in Karachi, Pakistan, but I've landed on a plane in India with a bunch of Indian people, and we were all shuffling in order to get out, and you get into you go to India, you meet your grandparents there, you meet your cousins. So I feel like in that sense, it was all just very fulfilling and almost a little bit weird to see. But it was just wholesome overall. The cousins, like you said, are just cousins. And I feel like that's how a lot of immigrant kids' relationships are with cousins, unless you go every 2 years or something. But for me, who goes every 6 years, my cousins to me are just cousins. They're not people I'm really close with because
it's hard to get attached. When you have cousins in another country, I love my cousins, but no, I won't say this publicly, but I love, most of my cousins, right? And so it's but it's tough when you get attached and then you only see each other every 2 years at the least, sometimes 10 years. That was for me,
Right.
Side note, was something that I did think it was funny is that, before the plane comes to a stop or whatever, people are already standing up, taking their luggage out. And I feel like that's so, oh man. Flying into Sri Lanka, it's the same thing. It's before the seatbelt lights off, before the whatever, it's no, people are just taking all their stuff from the top.
They just want to get out. I will say one thing that when we get later into the episode, I'll actually touch on it in terms of the trips you make back home as, a South Asian. Yeah. But yeah, no, I thought the the beginning scene. I thought the fact that she was talking, I just found it funny, like the guy who was sitting in between Kamala and her mom, and those two were just arguing. He was like, well, what is going on?
Yeah.
I think I also like the extra touch of, the lady was speaking in Urdu, which actually was going to happen, but like the man on the plane was also reading, like, I'm pretty sure it was an Urdu newspaper.
Okay.
Yes, but like they have that incorporated. I thought those were small, nice touches. I also really liked how the entire soundtrack, you could tell it was either like Bollywood music or Pakistani songs. All throughout, specifically through the beginning. So I thought it was all great.
Yeah. There's little touches in this show that make it known that they have people that have lived those experiences on their staff behind the scenes. It isn't a soundstage of what people think Pakistan is, and it isn't like some director being like, oh, why don't you, Pakistan it up a little bit more?
Yeah.
Well, why don't we have some random animal in the mix? Let's throw that in, It's rather like it's very unique, and it has like specifics, has a lot of specifics. Muniba and her mom, Nani. Muniba and Nani, like their relationship seems very specific. I don't know whether that's, did we get that in the comics? Is that new to the show?
No, that is new to the show, which I actually thought was one of the better elements of this episode, was getting to see like Muniba and her mom's relationship, because I feel like that's something I don't think we've ever gotten in an MCU project, is a grandparent's relationship to a superhero, period, ever. I don't think there's ever been as family centric. Yeah, not even Shang-Chi, because technically Shang-Chi's, sorry, I was trying to think back to Shang-Chi.
Not to grandparents, because we don't. Yeah,
not to grandparent.
Wait, was there did he have relatives on his mother's side in Talo?
Yeah, it was Michelle Yeoh's character.
His aunt, right?
Yeah, it was his aunt. So there was that relationship, but I think it was really interesting to see like a parent to parent relationship. I don't think we've ever gotten that in the MCU. So I thought that was really wholesome. And it was like very specific. It's not something from the comics, because when Kamala goes to Pakistan for the first time, she goes alone. Her mom doesn't come with her. So that's something new, but I think that was actually a really delightful element in the episode.
Yeah, it's making me think of, and maybe I'm free associating here, and maybe I don't want to say I'm reaching, because I think that people will be like, oh yeah, just dismissively, like you're reaching. But I feel a lot of the time, and most of the time when we deal with superheroes, it's an individual story. It's akin to pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, the American Dream type story, where one person gets bit by one spider, they make a difference, they push hard, save lives. It's about them. Bada bing, bada boom, right? But when we deal with Kamala, when we deal with Shang-Chi, we see that like the people around them matter.
Oh yeah.
And that like we care about them, and they matter, and they help, and like the good that this character does is because of the people that are around them. So it's less individualist. It's not like, oh, Shang-Chi just worked hard and like got to where he wanted to be. Like he did, but he was also supported by the people around him.
I mean, I think that contributes to like just cultural norms. The West is always meant to see very individualistic, and that's how the stories are told. Like Iron Man is sort of like, yes, he got it from his father, but Iron Man's story is kind of his own. Even Steve Rogers, a little bit like what he's done, we've always seen him as like this independent guy who like goes against the government, you know, and does what he wants to do. But when you start associating, if you look at the Asian hemisphere, the Asian continent is a collectivist culture. And I think there was some discourse about Twitter actually going on that today. Family means everything in Asian culture, even sometimes more than, what like family just means everything. Everything you do in an Asian family is for your family.
Right.
And so obviously the stories with Asian superheroes are going to be told that way. And it's like you said, it's interesting, but I feel like it's very accurate. And I'm glad that it's not an individualistic story, because then that would just feel out of place, since Asian cultures are very collectivist, very family driven, and, you know, not even family driven, like community driven. And we see that in Kamala, we see that in Shang-Chi's story, because Shang-Chi was the first true family story. The rest of the MCU, when it comes to parents, everyone's just traumatized. Everyone's just traumatized. But Shang-Chi, like, his dad was a villain, but also not. It's kind of like
he was a villain. I'm not a Wenwu apologist. But
okay. He was a villain.
Your thing clicked. There was like something. Your microphone like shifted. It was weird.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds different, but yeah.
Yeah, it was my microphone. Let me try to figure this.
I mean, Sorry. You don't sound bad. It's just different. I don't know what it sounds like, though.
I'm just going to switch over to my computer. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, if you can turn your sound up a little bit.
Okay. Were you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
I have. Okay, great. Yeah, I just have my microphone.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. What I was saying was, like, I'm not a Wenwu apologist. It's just, and like, he was bad, but like, sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay.
I agree. Like, I guess what I was trying to say is that with Shang-Chi's story, like, it was a very like family-centered, family-focused story, even though his like dad was the villain, but it was still, we saw that aspect of his like mom that was more of like, so we kind of saw him like struggling between the two sides and, you know, choosing the path that he wanted to build for himself. And in a way, it's kind of similar to Kamala, but Kamala, it's more of just on her mom's side, which I'm really liking that they specifically chose the mom story, because a big theme that's been emphasized throughout the show is that the immigrant daughters and immigrant mothers, specifically, I can only comment on South Asians. It is always a very difficult dynamic relationship, and it's different. Like this is like speaking from personal experience too. I have a much more rocky relationship with my mom than I do with my dad. And so to see like an MCU show like adopt that very accurately, I think it's very, very nice.
Yeah. When you brought up Captain America, I was thinking to myself, so this, stick with me here. Hopefully this makes sense. But like, if we saw Aunt May from Peter Parker, from Spider-Man, if we saw Aunt May talking to her mother, a lot of people would be like, why do we care? Cut that scene out. We don't need it. How does this further Peter Parker's story? Because Peter Parker's story is learning lessons from the people around him, but like, it tends to be very individualist.
Yeah.
Right? Or let's put it even more so. Let's go, because I think it's a sliding spectrum. It's not like a binary sort of thing. Do we need, like in a Tony Stark thing, do we need Pepper Potts talking to her mother about anything? No. But I mean, would it be fine? Like, I'd be fine with it. But like, Tony's story is all about Tony and what Tony wants, what Tony goes for. He's very narcissistic and arrogant. So when we deal with Muniba and Nani talking, the question in my head wasn't, who cares? It wasn't. Because I know that their story affects Kamala's story. Because she is her community and her family, and it is that kind of almost a collectivist superhero kind of mentality. Shang-Chi has a very similar thing. We deal with his family and the Tai Lo thing and whatnot. I do think that Superman, when done right, we care about the people that surround Superman. But when Superman's done wrong, he's done very similar to Iron Man, where it's like, Superman does this, Superman does that. Who cares about who's around him? Like, Superman, he can do everything. But like, if you watch Superman and Lois, we deal a lot with, Lois goes and talks with Lana. I don't know if you've watched the show.
I haven't.
Okay. So Lana is Clark Kent's ex-girlfriend from when he was in high
Right.
school. They've
Yeah.
moved back into Smallville. Lois is his wife, and Lois and Lana have a relationship. One could say, in a Superman show, why do we care about Lois and Lana talking about anything?
Yeah.
Why do they have a friendship? Why do we care about their friendship? But that's because I think like Superman is kind of collectivist in a way, because
Right.
he's pushing that we are together in this.
Yeah.
The song that brings up is like, if we go down, then we go
If
down
we
together.
go down, yeah.
Yeah.
We go down. Yeah.
It's so Superman and Captain America are kind of on that end, where like you can also tell good Captain America stories by the people around him. But Kamala, bringing it back to Kamala, we need to care about Muniba and Nani. We need to care about Aisha. We need to care, weirdly enough, about Najma and like what's her whole like. She is the community. She is the people around her, her friends and her family. Whether it's Karachi or whether it's New Jersey, I think we're seeing a little bit of a shift recently away from this individualist, pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of superhero. You know?
Which I'm liking. I'm liking it. I think it's really interesting you bring up Spider-Man because, you know, a lot of people attribute to the fact that he became his own superhero after he lost like Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
And so he does get impacted by the events around him, but his improvement is something that he takes on individually versus for Kamala, even in the comics, the improvement that she goes through is like it's hard to describe. Like she doesn't go through loss, but she goes through challenges, and how she shapes herself as a superhero is like based on how others around her help her. And I think that's what kind of makes her different from Spider-Man, is that Spider-Man only lets the events impact him, but not the people. Whereas Kamala lets the people impact her. And I think that's kind of like the difference between an individualistic superhero story and a collectivist. But No Way Home kind of changed that, because in No Way Home, you know, Peter Parker only did what he did when he met the other Spider-Man. Like that was like kind of a shift in Peter Parker's story when they actually brought in the variants, which is a very good point to bring up. So I agree with you. Like, I'm actually, I don't know, like that's kind of like, that's where my brain is going now. It's like, there was that little bit of a almost not collectivist, but you know, the other Spider-Man like did kind of shape him on the decisions that he's going to make.
Mm-hmm. But then the question is, are they different than him or the same? Like narratively speaking, does it count? I'm not quite sure. But like, again, I'm sure there are people out there, because in the decades of Spider-Man comics, like, yes, there are going to be things to disprove this theory, but like, and I'm just coming up with it right now. But like, I think as a whole, I think these theories stand up. Like Batman, when done, he can be done either individualistically, where it's like Batman's war against crime, and like, he is the best at everything he does. Or when you do, and that's not my favorite interpretation of Batman, you have Batman with his Bat family, you know, you have Batman with his Bat family, like, depending on his Bat family for the things that they bring to the table as well. Like, again, accomplishing something together and whatnot. But Colin L brought up a good thing on YouTube. Colin L says, to bring back Time Traveler for a second, they did dress Bruno up as Marty McFly. Is that intentional? Like, just to kind of hint that we're going to get, like, some sort of time travel in this? I don't know. But, yeah, like, even it's like, the people around us shape us. The people around us help us accomplish things, or even sometimes don't help, like, hinder us, right? Like, but we are the people around us, and I think that that's something important to this Ms. Marvel story, you know?
Of course, yes.
And you can take it a step further, like, she is an Inhuman, at least in the comics. We'll see what happens in the MCU. She is a clandestine. I don't want to call her a djinn, because in this episode they talk about it, and I don't know whether people are going to buy that angle or not, but okay, whatever. But like, she is so many things, and I think that's kind of the point of Ms. Marvel.
Yes.
Even without the Inhuman stuff, even without all that stuff, it's like she is just by sake of being a Pakistani American.
She's
Karachi
Pakistani.
versus New Jersey, you know?
Mhm. She's Muslim. Like there's so many facets to her identity, which I think makes her relatable for a lot of like immigrant fans, because we feel like we also have different facets of our identity, like, and different communities that we belong to. And I think that's what makes Kamala's story so special, is the fact that she is part of different communities, and how she kind of, again, uses those communities to shape her the way she is, versus compared to, you know, other superheroes where it's more about they use the events in their life, which I think both styles of storytelling are fine. Like they're both great. I just gear myself more towards the, I'm going to use my communities around me, because that's what I grew up as. Like
Yeah.
that's what I grew up. Sorry, those are my unique experiences.
Yeah. If I had powers, I would tell my parents, and they would have to just get over the fact that like I'm going out to save people. But like if they wanted to help me, help. But they're such an important part of my life. I could not tell my parents.
Exactly.
You know?
Like maybe not my parents first, but my friends would be the first ones to know for sure.
But Kamala
I would not
has to
hide
tell
that.
her parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does. No, like, no, my friends would be the first one to know. Like, so.
Yeah. So we are. How does this work? We are in Karachi. She's looking around for the train station. She talks to Nani about the vision. Seems like Nani has just had visions and not powers, right?
No.
Can you imagine Nani throwing a fist like that?
So funny. I mean, listen, like, I'm down for it, but that would definitely be interesting.
Yeah. Nani reminds me a little bit of looks wise, I think, of my mom's mom. And so I'm like,
me too. I saw Nani with the bun, and like my own Nani does like a bun every time I see her. So I was like, what? I was so taken back. The only difference is my Nani doesn't wear a sari, which I find really interesting that her Nani does, because, you know, Maniba was wearing a kurta, but yeah, my Dali wears a sari though, so that's what I was surprised by.
Oh, okay. My mom's mom, I don't know. When I think of her in a sari. I don't know what she wore other than that. I don't remember. Right. But there are specifics in this show that are very, very specific, which is wonderful.
Yes.
But we deal with the cousins. The cousins serve no purpose other than just kind of be like, they're your cousins.
This is what it's like when you visit family. That's it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was still a fun element. So.
By the way, that's a huge house. Like,
Nani's
house is a huge house.
I thought that was like, I thought that was like pretty common. I mean, my experience, my family houses aren't that huge in India, but like, I thought I wasn't surprised by that, only because when you go to India, a lot of my friends tell me that their grandparents have really big houses because everyone lives there. So I wasn't taken back by that. In fact, I was looking for the terrace. That's the first thing I was looking for on the house. The terrace, because like that's super common in a lot of like Indian houses and stuff. I don't know if they show that, but like I was not taken back by that big house, because I was like, yeah, this makes sense.
to my mom's house.
Right.
And like, you know, she had a gate out front and whatever.
Yeah.
And like it was a big house because multiple rooms and whatnot. But at the same time, like I feel like Nani's house is a little bit bigger than my Achi's house, is what we say in Sri Lanka. But that's a whole different tangent. But I mean, good for Nani, you know.
No, totally good for Nani. I mean, I feel like there's so many small things in this episode that could just be discussed for hours, because it ties to our own personal experiences. And I think that's what I probably most loved about this episode, was actually there's two things. Two things that stood out to me from this episode were the character dynamics, the small relationships like Nani and Muniba Auntie or Kamala and Kareem, which we can get into later.
Yeah.
And then also the personal experiences that tie in. I will say the one thing I was surprised by was the fact that they didn't show the rest of Kamala's extended family living there. Because I expected to see like more people there, more than just cousins and Nani for a big house.
Yeah.
So that surprised me. But again, that's just like based on our own personal experiences. I was expecting to see that. So
do you have a big extended family?
I don't, but I feel no, actually I have a pretty small extended family, but I feel like it's kind of common when you visit India that all your extended family is in like one place. And so I was kind of expecting to see that. Yeah.
My dad he was an only child, and my mom had 4 sisters. So like I feel like it's slightly larger on one side, and then like my dad doesn't have any siblings on his side.
Right.
So like I feel like everybody who has a huge extended family, like I can't relate because I'm like it's it's fairly small. I got a couple of sets of cousins, and that's pretty much it. But let's talk about Kareem and the Red Daggers. Because Kamala, she's on the tour with her cousins. Her cousins don't really know what's going on. They're just kind of like winging it. And then she's like, let's go to this train station. They're like, we'll just see you later. She goes to the train station. She puts on her mask. I don't know why. Why do you think she puts on her mask?
I thought it might have been to like conceal herself so that like no one can identify her and recognize her.
Yeah.
That's the way I read it, is like more of just like no one is able to recognize me that I'm at the train station and nothing more.
But it also pointed out that like she's one of the only people with jeans on or something.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I feel like people are going to recognize you mask or no mask, but okay, fine. Red Dagger pops out of nowhere. He's been like stalking her for a little bit.
Right.
And he's throwing, Colin says, because it said the area was under surveillance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why
she read that. That's right. By the way, Colin, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't know how you found us, but thank you for finding us. If you haven't followed Rid on social media, definitely follow Rid. And then at the Keeg Show, where, wherever you are on social media. So she puts on the mask because it's surveillance. Fair enough. Then we see Red Dagger. Red Dagger pops in. And they have a little fight scene. Right? How did you feel about that little fight scene?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was playful. I mean, for like, I wasn't like, when it comes to Miss Marvel fight scenes, don't have like high expectations about, it should be well choreographed or fancy. Like, I think I saw a couple of tweets after the show kind of talking about how the fight scenes, though, do a good job of showing Kamala's progression and her confidence in her own powers. And I think you could see that. Yeah. I think one thing the fight scenes do well is that they don't show like Kamala just like being able to do anything and like take down anything. Like they still show the error in her ways that she's trying to learn her powers.
Yeah.
And I think it was highlighted in that fight scene. Like she fell, like he threw the dagger. She fell multiple times trying to like climb up the platforms or whatever. So I think that's something I appreciate about the fight scenes, is that it's very realistic for the circumstance that it's in. And
she seems to be getting better. Like, yes. And it's something that's subtle in the way they choreograph it, right? Like you can kind of see, I'm sure you can go back and watch like episode 3 or so and kind of see her growth as a character trying out these powers. Darth Chaco is in the chat. Darth Chaco says, and what's up to Darth Chaco, obviously. Darth Chaco says she kicks some freaking ass. She is learning well. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can kind of see that in each and every thing. So I'm laughing because the actress who plays Najma, throughout the whole like episode, she had her mask up. And you can tell, like, I don't know whether this actress is just, she's not used to, like, big physical fight scenes. She's walking around with like 2 daggers, and she's just kind of like walking around like that. And like it's like everybody else is like throwing punches, and she's just like walking around with their daggers. And I just thought it was like super funny.
Yeah. I think the like fight scenes have an element of kind of like playfulness and almost like, I don't want to say immaturity, but I'm trying to find like that fine balance between playful and immaturity. It's that, whatever that is, that's what the fight scenes are. Cause they're not, And I like that because I think, again, it's like very realistic with the tone of the show. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But it is weird when you have like the leader of the clandestines not being able to fight.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Dastraka says she do be like a praying mantis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Praying mantis, you know? So we deal with the red dagger, and then we find out like when they have a cute kind of banter as they fight, which is cool. I would like more banter in like the chase scene that happens after. It would be nice to kind of have more banter in that.
Right.
But it was what it was. But like we find out that Red Dagger, Kareem, by the way, I knew I recognized Kareem from somewhere. The actor is Aramis Knight. He was on Enter the Badlands or Into the Badlands.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you ever saw that show.
No.
It was like a martial arts show.
Okay.
And he was like young, so it was like it started it was 2015 to 2019. So like he was one of the actors there.
Oh, nice.
And so Into the Badlands. It was on AMC for a little bit. And I was like, that's where I recognize him. Though so okay, cool. It's like somebody I recognize. Anyway, the Red Daggers is kind of like a society, like a that, and then they have like the secret entrance in the Chinese restaurant, which is cool. Almost like it's like a Pakistani Batman society kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Which I think is cool. And then we meet Waleed, who tells a little bit more about like what the clandestine are. And he mentions that if Thor fell in the Himalayas, he would be considered a jinn. And so he's saying like they're not jinn as in the religious text jinn. They're not jinn as in you know the ones that we like that culturally they think about, but they are like
more
an
just like
extra dimensional being.
Yeah.
That is considered by that culture.
Which I think the origin, I feel like there's lots to unpack because in the third episode, first of all, I just want to say Waleed was played by Farhan Akhtar, who's like one of my favorite Bollywood actors.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he
that
was a Bollywood
really great.
actor.
Yeah, he is. Farhan Akhtar is a pretty big actor in Bollywood, so the fact that they got him to come on a Marvel show when I found out, I was great. Over the moon. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out.
I was about to say he's a very good-looking guy.
Yes. He's also like,
dare I say, not all Bollywood actors are good-looking. Sometimes they pretend like they're good-looking, and everybody just kind of has to pretend. Yeah. But nah, this guy's a good-looking guy.
Farhan Akhtar is also like very talented. Like he's a director, writer, producer, singer, actor. Anyways, I can talk about Farhan Akhtar, but I wanted to just point that out that the guy who plays Waleed is a very famous actor in Indian Bollywood cinema.
Yeah.
And he's actually been in a lot of like really some of the top Bollywood movies. So that's why he's like,
I just Google image searched him, and like I'm seeing so many different things of like he like when he's like slightly chubby because he like put on weight versus like then he gets a 6-pack. Right. And like beard versus no beard.
Yeah, he has a lot yeah.
If the ladies aren't simping, they need to be. They gotta jump.
No, they do. Yeah. They do. But yeah, no, I thought the origin of the clandestines, the moment he showed that second map, I think this is where Tao Lo and the Noor dimension are connected, because like they're both Well, because you know how they were saying like the Noor dimension is something that's hidden. It's
Yeah.
not in the real world, which kind of similar to Talo. It's in the
Yeah.
forest. It's not hidden, but it exists like as a pocket of dimension.
Yeah.
I think that's where the connection for the two places comes. I also
You
think
think
it's
it's
really
the same place? Because they said there's so many. Like he mentioned that there's just like so many other kind of dimensions, right?
right. I don't think they're the same place, but like there's definitely connections because they're so just like on a geographical level, they're
Yeah.
very close. So it would make sense for them to cross paths or like be connected at some point. I mean, we already saw like that 10 rings reference in the third
Yeah.
episode. So
Yeah.
I think like this one kind of hammers home on like why it might make sense for like them to be connected because they're kind of on a conceptual level the same exact thing. They also the 10 rings, the bangle, like there's a lot of there's just like similarities in that sense. So I was like, okay, so that makes sense why they're connected because Shang-Chi comes from a dimension, so Kamala coming from a dimension. That's why it would make sense for the two characters to be connected in that way. I think that like the way the origin was explained, it was sweet, it was simple, like it kind of dispelled the whole Jin red herring. It also gave us some insight onto why it connects to Shang-Chi. So I thought that was done pretty well.
And they could always, if they really wanted to, I'm not saying they're going to, because again, the comics are different than the MCU. Some people forget that.
Yeah.
If they wanted to connect it to the Inhumans later, they could just be like, it's an offshoot of the Inhumans that live in this like separate place. They are Inhumans though, right? They just whatever. Darth Chaco is putting some good comments. So I'll eventually get through all of Darth Chaco's stuff. Darth Chaco says, can all Asian people not come from a different dimension though? Yes. This is something that I've been, like I noticed last time and I'm like, and I talked to people about it. It's like every Asian Marvel character, except for Wong, comes from a different dimension or place.
Extraterrestrial.
Right. The Eternals are extraterrestrial robots. Shang-Chi, like it's this, Talo. You got the clandestine in their dimension. It's kind of weird.
It's because really it's almost weird.
Othering in a world where we other Asian people. Like in our world, we other. They're foreign. They're weird. They're whatever. Doesn't matter. South Asian, East Asian, Southeast Asian. In the real world, we do that. In this fictional world, we're also saying, yeah, you're not from around here. This white boy got bitten by a radioactive spider in Queens, and he's from here. You are from another dimension or another planet. And it is kind of weird, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Like, this is definitely an interesting point brought up. And I think if they do that to like a third Asian superhero that they're gonna bring into the MCU, I think that's
You don't think this is 3 though already? Eternals, Shang-Chi, and Miss Marvel?
It is, but I think like the Eternals are kind of different because like that was always like expected of the Eternals.
Yeah.
You know, like the Eternals are always expected to be that way. So the Eternals doesn't surprise me as much. But for Shang-Chi and like Miss Marvel, they actually like, I don't know too much about the Shang-Chi comics, but like Miss Marvel is not from another dimension. So that's why I only consider it to be really Shang-Chi and not Shang-Chi and Eternals, Shang-Chi and Miss Marvel because the Eternals are expected.
Yeah,
so like that was not surprising. But I think if they do that to like a third Asian superhero, it would be weird because the only other 2 prominent Asian figures that we have are side characters, which is what's Jimmy Woo?
Yeah, Jimmy Woo.
And Wong. And I'm not gonna lie, Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme and Jimmy was an agent. But like both of them don't have any prominent roles or any prominent, leadership. And this is my issue with the Doctor Strange, like whole magical mystic thing, which I've talked about is kind of the exclusion of Asians in that space because so much of the mystical arts and the concepts that Doctor Strange is adopted from South Asian centric religions like Buddhism and Hinduism. There's not a single, and you're telling me it's set in Nepal, and there's not a single South Asian sorcerer.
Right.
Like, that's why it's very weird that they are excluding Asians, especially in a space like Doctor Strange, where they should be including. Like, they literally whitewashed the Ancient One to subvert racial stereotypes, which still isn't a good reason to whitewash the character and have a white woman play it instead of, you know, I think it was like a Tibetan man. I don't know if I pronounced that word right.
Because they weren't sure, like, they didn't want China to be like, we don't recognize Tibet, so we can't have Tibet be a thing. Guess what they could have done? Made the Ancient One South Asian?
Exactly. Like, it's very weird that, you know, the two Asian superheroes, the two central Asian superheroes in the center are half extraterrestrial.
Yeah, it's just this. And it's the othering of a fictional character now in a world that's already othered, right?
Exactly.
It's super weird.
Where you should be having a lot of prominent Asian characters, there's none. And that's why I think it also pisses me more off about Doctor Strange Multiverse and the Madness.
Yeah.
Because when Wanda walks into WandaCore, she runs her hand over the wall. There's Sanskrit on the wall. Like, it very much is derived from South Asian culture.
Where is she? Sorry, in which part?
It was when she first got to WandaCore, and she was running and they were like showing the walls. The words are inscribed in I have to go back and rewatch the movie, but I'm pretty sure the words are inscribed in Sanskrit, which, so don't get me started on like Wanda and the whitewashing, because like that's a whole another thing. But yeah, it's just like, it's weird. The other, like you said, the othering of South Asians, and then not South Asians, Asians.
Just Asians in general. All these heroes, it's not enough that they be a hero from here. They have to be a hero from there.
It's kind of giving like Asians are exotic or something.
It's kind of giving me that Earth is America.
Yeah.
And other planets and dimensions are other countries. In a weird way. Darth Chaco says even Danny Rand had to travel to Kunlun to hang out with Asians. Because, and even then he's the one of this like Asian a kind of temple city place.
Right.
Which, okay, whatever. But Colin L says I would watch a Wong movie or TV show. I mean Wong is so much better in Phase 4 because they've made him just a better rounded character.
Right.
Colin L says pretending to be good looking is what makes or breaks your acting jobs. That was a reply to earlier when I said that I feel like some Bollywood actors are pretending to be good looking.
Yeah.
And they're not. Some of them aren't. They're just pretending. So we deal with that, and then we deal with question. Did you watch Book of Boba Fett? I know Darth Chaco out there has watched.
I did watch it.
Okay, so in episode 3 of Book of Boba Fett, they have a land speeder chase that is the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just a really bad scene.
Yeah, I remember it.
And it's slow, and it's like Robert Rodriguez should know better because he's like a good enough director. Like, why did they just not spend much time on this? It was like shoddily cut together. But this scene in this episode, these cars are and the bikes and the tuk-tuks and whatnot, like they should be slower than a land speeder in Star Wars, but they went faster and it was more compelling. I just thought it was funny.
No, you're right. I actually really like that they had all of they had Kareem. It's Kareem. Yeah, Kareem and they're all K's. Kamran.
Kareem, yeah, I was getting Kareem and Kamran mixed up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, Kareem was riding a rickshaw, and I like that little detail.
Yeah.
Or there was that auto going by, and I was like, this is, or even the truck was decorated in Pakistani truck art, which is apparently really popular. So, but I enjoyed the vehicle chase scene. I actually saw this recent TikTok from a mutual of mine talking about how Kamala driving or being in a vehicle is like a centric part of each episode. So I thought that was really interesting too. And
dare I dig into that metaphor a little bit?
Yes, go ahead.
I think it's being, the driver of your own destiny.
Yes.
Right? That's what the metaphor is for driving, right? Kamala driving a car is Kamala choosing her own path.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I don't think you need a PhD in English literature.
No, you don't.
But, you know.
Yeah.
I think it would impress, like, high school teachers if you, like, pulled that out.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no,
continue.
that's so true. No. I agree with you. I think it's, like, a driver of her own destiny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, like, connect it back to, like, how that connects to the whole, like, why they specifically chose driving to showcase that and how that kind of collects to the sort of collectivism discussion that we had earlier. I'm trying to, like, I think my brain is just fizzled out, but
I mean, maybe this is TikTok material then. Like, you know, we'll think about it and then we'll go to sleep and then, like,
exactly. But no, this is really great. This is really great point. I enjoyed that. I do think that the action scene did drag a little, and that
which one?
For me, the one with the whole car chase and everything. Like, I like the ending of the episode did drag, and I unfortunately found myself getting a little bored of it. With like the hand-to-hand combat, but I think it was just like the driving thing dragged really long, and then by the time we got to the hand-to-hand combat, I was like half paying attention.
Yeah.
So that was the unfortunate part of that fight scene. I think they could have like cut out a somewhat amount and at least given us some of the backstory or save that time for more like character growth or work.
Darth Chaco brings up a point that I'm trying to parse what it means. The MCU is so American centric. It's common that Americans believe that women are not allowed to drive. I think is Darth Chaco saying that they Americans believe that Muslims think that Americans or that women aren't allowed to drive? Because that's like a specifically Saudi thing, though it does get brought up when people talk about it.
Specifically that like Muslim women can't drive because from what you like, again,
what we hear about East. With like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So it might be a tie-in with that.
Maybe.
But it's also a coming of age story, right? And I feel like we can see white characters learning to drive in their respective movies or TV shows. I feel like a car is a specific thing to coming of age. Even without tying in like another layer of like, oh, she's a Muslim woman. I think like a car is something that almost is individualist in a way. Like driving a car, right? You can't drive it with somebody. You could drive your family to the grocery store, but I feel like it's a specifically personal journey.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yes.
Yeah. Do you know how to drive? Because I know that
I do.
People in different cities, but no, you're in California. That's right. Some of our like East Coast people, I always wonder like, do they know how to drive? Because like people in Jersey, people in New York, they don't have to drive, right?
True. Yeah.
No. You're in NorCal. Wait, but NorCal is a good public transit system. Anyway, whatever. No, really. You guys don't.
Not
better than Orange County and LA, right?
Popularly used.
That's fair.
I feel like I don't know anyone that like really uses public transport unless they don't have a car.
Yeah.
But the first preference is always to have a car.
Yeah. I'm over here in Orange County and like we all have to have cars. In LA, same thing. It's like even if it takes you 2 hours to get down the street, you got to do it. But what was I saying? You were saying that it was dragging on a little too long, right? And I get that. And then again, Najma jumps off a thing, and like Waleed, I guess he's just like, I'm gonna use my 2 daggers to get that one guy. I get stabbed in the back and thrown off a balcony. Okay, and then he does, and that I thought was weird and kind of clunky.
Yeah, I thought like Waleed's character was kind of done dirty at the end, but I also don't know if it was because like Farhan didn't want to, come from more than like one episode. Like he kind of just wanted to keep it to a cameo and not more. So there could be like just like behind the scenes stuff. It was just like, I'm just good with the cameo. I'm good. Like that keeps the fans happy. So I feel like it could have been that, but That's what I was like. That fight scene just got clunky for me, and also, and like just like because the first part with the car chase scene dragged a little too long.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to the whole hand-to-hand combat. Like I was half watching it, and yeah, you're right. It did feel slightly clunky.
It was slightly clunky. I was fine with the car chase part, but once they got to the fight part, it did seem clunky. And then Colin L brings up, did he even use his sword? Like, did Waleed have a sword?
I don't know. He had a lot of swords.
He had like daggers.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, he was just kind of there to die, which is okay, I guess. It's not his story, but he seemed like he had all the answers. It's
exactly.
like one of those characters that it's like, why don't I ask him all the questions I've ever wanted? But you only have like limited time with him, and then he dies, and you're like, I should have asked him about Aisha. Like, what's going on there?
Exactly. I do think it was. I don't know in a way if it's kind of good that he died, because I was kind of concerned with like the Red Dagger storyline when I heard there were multiple Red Daggers with Waleed and Kareem. So in a way, I was like kind of confused on why they would choose that route.
Yeah.
But so in a way, I'm like kind of happy he died, because at least like now like Red Dagger does get to be his own solo character.
Yeah.
Than just being like that group of characters. So it's a little bit more closer to the comic counterpart in that sense. So like that's like the only plus side I can see to his death is the fact that we don't have to like deal with the group of Red Daggers. But it'd be really interesting to learn the backstory for sure.
That being said, we do see like Kareem's friends that I assume are not Red Daggers. They're just like people, and like they get to hang out and they get to eat, just like hang out and eat and whatever. Which I thought was like kind of a nice moment. And it also makes me, this is something I only realized in my not my recent trip to Sri Lanka, but like the one right before it. It was like 2019. Is that like when I was younger and I went to Sri Lanka with my family, I didn't get to meet anyone my own age. And like, I just, but then like 2019 I did, and like 2022 I did. And so like, cool. It just seemed cool that Kamala had that, you know?
No, I understand, because I've been to India twice. I mean, the only reason I met people my age is because my cousins are the same age as me.
Oh.
And like maybe a couple of family friends, but I've never like made friends in India on my own that are like my own age.
Right.
So that was like touching to see that like Kamala had found friends outside of her direct family to hang out with, because I don't think that's something that like a lot of people, So I thought that was also like a really nice touching scene. And I don't know, I feel like it was one of those scenes where they incorporated it just to like show like, you know, she's a teenager at the end of the day, like she's caught up in the superhero stuff, but she also just like wants to rewind and relax and just grab dinner with friends on the beach. So I thought that was like a nice inclusion to kind of like remind us of like, this is what at heart the story is about.
Yeah. That being said, I feel like in real life, Muniba would be like, who are you going to hang out with? You can't just hang out with anyone when you're in another country.
She did assume if she was with her cousins, though.
She did when she came back, right?
Yeah. So I guess like that was kind of their plot hole for that. And it was like, okay, so you're with your cousins. Cool. Like, I don't need to ask any more questions unless now she questions the cousins and then there's inconsistencies. But I don't think we're going to go down that route. So I was like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, as long as Kamala is safe, because I understand not telling your parents everything, but also you gotta be safe. But luckily, I guess, you know, Kareem was cool enough. And then we end kind of where we were talking about it in the beginning. Aisha stabs the spear into the thing, which for some reason, either one of two things: sends Kamala back in time to the partition train station, or gives her a vision where she's essentially living in this vision of the partition train station.
Yeah.
Now, Colin out there, Darth Chaco, I don't know what you guys think. I want to know, though, do you think she was sent back in time, or she's living in this kind of vision of the past? because we didn't get to see her. We didn't get to see her like affect anything. Nobody bumped
Mhm.
into her, right? Like I don't know. Is she affecting the past? Did she travel to the past? I don't know.
I don't think so. Like, because no one infected her, that's why I'm kind of on the route that it's more of a vision and that she's gonna see like what exactly happens rather than her affecting the past. And even if it might be like her affecting the past, I would prefer if they don't go down that route because, like I said at the beginning, I think it'll just complicate things.
Yeah.
The one thing though is I do kind of want to like touch on is the importance of discussing the partition because like that's an event that's like impacted a lot of South Asians, specifically Indians and Pakistanis. And I think this is the first time in like any Western media that the partition is being discussed. And it's not something people learn about in their history classes. Which Nakia brought a point up about is that the history is always told through the perspective of the oppressor, not the oppressed. And the partition is something that happens because the British oppressed us, which I think is like a whole other conversation we can have about what this show is doing in terms of talking about the impact of colonialism in India and Pakistan.
Yeah.
But I just think like it's really important that we are seeing the partition and its impact because it's something that's impacted a lot of people. It's something that I think why I also really enjoy the comics is because when I read the partition story in the comics in Aisha's journey, it actually resembles my own great-grandmother's journey due to the effects of the partition from what is now Bangladesh to India. It's a very similar thing. So that's also why I love Kamala as a character because it's not just Kamala, it's about her entire family. So
right.
Yeah.
Because her story is their story. Their story is her story. And again, that's kind of this collectivist superhero kind of identity that we're seeing as of lately.
Yeah.
Darth Chaco says that he literally hadn't heard about the partition until the show, and that he's I believe he said earlier he was looking into it and like learning new things about it. And that makes him really sad that like he had never heard about the partition. And in my personal experience, like I knew in history classes what happened with India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. And then like me and my family, we're from Sri Lanka. So we were kind of on the outside of it and it didn't affect us as far as that's concerned. Because Sri Lanka was kind of its own, it's weird. The British came in and created hierarchies everywhere. And Sri Lanka was relatively like untouched from the partition. Especially because being on an island, it's not like a train's going to take you anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't learn about the partition from my own family because that wasn't our history. We had our own like civil war and everything, right? And so like, you know, not that like, Sri Lanka didn't get off scot-free, but I didn't know about this. So technically I didn't know about the partition until very recently. That is not something, and it's very interesting because I look at it and I'm going to have to look more into it, but we brush over the Trail of Tears here in America. You know the Trail of Tears?
Yes.
Where, you know, they moved all the Native Americans westward and they just kept moving them and then they died along that. And, you know, that's American history. British history is a lot similar in the sense they just go to other countries and force people to do that too. This is a lot like that. It's just forcing a forced migration of people. And if they die, they die. And that's fucking horrible. So yeah, Darth Choco, I mean, I'm technically with you. Like I hadn't heard about the partition, especially that specific word. Had I would have looked into it.
And
earlier.
I agree. Like, I remember the first time I was watching Miss Marvel episode 2 with a friend and they mentioned the partition. Like, she brought it up and she was like, oh yeah, the partition, you know, it impacted my family. It was kind of in a dark way. So I paused the episode and we like had a 20-minute conversation just about the partition and the impact or the way that it played into our family story. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's a superhero show, but for specifically people who have been through the partition, and the partition is something that's like contributed to the current political climate between India and Pakistan. It's something that's like traumatized a lot of families for generations. It's contributed to a lot of like, yeah, there's just, even I don't know the full story of it. I feel like I recently learned what actually happened during the partition. I only knew like what happened. So I just like, I'm sorry, I don't want to sidetrack from there, but I also just wanted to bring up like the importance of discussing the partition because it is a very like huge historical event that is just not talked about. I believe it's one of the biggest like mass migrations in history. That's why.
This is why I think media is so important, because the comparable historical thing, it's not a one-for-one comparison, whatever, but a comparison in the sense that like another historical event that nobody ever talked about until 2 shows brought it up, is the Tulsa, Oklahoma riots. And I was not taught about it in school. And Colin L says they don't even teach our own correct history here. You're right. Yeah. Like, they don't. They brush over so many things. And the Tulsa, Oklahoma stuff was a big part of the Watchmen TV series. Did you ever watch Watchmen?
I don't think so.
Oh, it is so good. And it talk about that show, and Miss Marvel is predicated on the fact that like our heroes are born from history. Like we are our history that leads us up to this point, right? Whether it's our own choices in the past or our family's choices, those choices accumulate over time, and we are our history. And so Watchmen goes into it, and then Lovecraft Country goes into Tulsa. Like, they literally time travel back to Tulsa. And so like it's, media is so important to teach us these things that it seems like our education system is leaving out.
Exactly.
Which is
yeah, just not a great thing, but I'm glad that these stories are being told, and it's also being told by the correct people, because I feel like if anyone else was telling the story and it wasn't a Pakistani or an Indian, well, yeah, I'm going to say specifically Pakistani and Indian, not generally South Asian, because specifically impacted those 2 countries. I think it's also like a really great part that it's coming from them and not from any other, not to discredit anyone, but like that most Indians and Pakistanis only know about it. So I'm glad the story's being told through their perspective. That's all.
I mean, we don't need the British colonial perspective.
No.
You know,
No.
definitely not. No. Yeah, Darth Draco's saying that media representation is so, he says, so goddamn important. And especially a show like Miss Marvel showing Muslims in a positive light, showing South Asians in a positive light, showing that like, aren't we all capable of love? Aren't we all capable of having families and being a part of the community and being good, and maybe some bad, but in the past 20 years, a lot of the media is bad.
Yeah.
Because it's a very one stereotypical thing.
Yes.
You know? And so the media representation is important. Miss Marvel is important with this. Where do we see episodes 5 and 6 going? What are we thinking? Because I don't know. I don't know where it's gonna go. I want to hear your.
Okay, so I definitely think that episode 5 will be probably the most painful and emotional episodes, which I'm not surprised, because I think I said this earlier, but a lot of the Marvel 6-episode shows, it's always episode 5 that comes at us, with Moon Knight, with Loki, with like WandaVision, second to last episode 8. So that pattern. So yeah, I think definitely episode 5 will cover the partition. I feel like the partition scene might be like the first 10 minutes max.
Because you're saying it's a vision.
If I were to go the route, it's a vision. I'd say it's like 10 minutes
from what
max
you're
a
judging.
vision. Yeah. And then
Darth Chaco also agrees that it's a vision. And then Colin L says it may be a predestined time travel where it already happened. That's what I was thinking originally.
Interesting. Yeah.
Where it's that causal loop. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban does it.
Yeah,
That's how
yeah,
I like my time travel. Any time travel has already happened. That's the way.
right, right. I think that's really good. We've seen two different ways because then we'll have two different predictions for how the show will continue. So I believe it'll be a vision, and then like I'm pretty sure she's like captured by the clandestine at this point, and they might try to like take the bracelet off of her, try it out for themselves, kind of going back to your prediction of them trying it on.
Where they all get powers.
Yeah, like or them trying to unlock their own.
Yeah.
And trying to open up the newer dimension. I think we might be seeing that. I'm just really interested on how she's going to be able to combat all that because she's still a relatively new superhero going against a large threat like this. So I'm really interested in seeing how they're going to wrap that story, unless somehow in the next 2 episodes, the second bangle is found, maybe because the first is ruptured. I think Aisha might also help her. I feel like she might get a vision from Aisha about something. There's a couple different possibilities. So that's how she's able to take out the clandestine. I think Kamran might put on and unlock his own superpowers. And so I could see the two of them together, plus Red Dagger doing something.
Yeah. Because the clandestine left Kamran behind.
Yes. But I feel like Kamran might just magically find his way to Pakistan. And I wouldn't be surprised or something. Or, I
think they're going to take it back to Jersey by episode 6.
Is the newer dimension in Pakistan?
I don't think we know one way or another. Oh, well, the map, he moved. Yeah, maybe it doesn't end with the Nord dimension because I feel like it's going to end in Jersey City again.
Yes.
So maybe we're going to deal with the Nord dimension here, and then we're going to go back to Jersey because they're going to wreak havoc or something.
Yeah, and like that's where the finale, I think the finale will take place in Jersey City, but episode 5 will be majority set in Karachi. I think it's just really interesting to see like what that transition is going to be because it's literally like cross country. Like you have to get on a plane. Like you can't just.
It's going to be a portal. It has to be a portal, right? Like I think.
Yes.
I feel like between episodes 5 and 6, she's going to portal back to Jersey. For some
maybe like travel through the Nord dimension to portal.
Yeah.
Huh. I could see that. I think that would make sense. I think because like other than that, I don't understand like just logically. And I know like you have to suspend disbelief in any type of fictional media, but this is like
Can
we're
you
talking
imagine
about
that flight though?
Yeah.
Like what's a flight from Pakistan to New Jersey? Like 16 hours? No, 14 hours maybe?
Wait, I'm turning California to India is like 20 hours.
Yeah, but like
probably like 14 to 16 hours or something, which is long though. Like that's more than half a day. So yeah, I think she might portal through the Nord dimension. I definitely think the Nord dimension will get opened up and we'll see it. And so she'll try to portal through there. And then Bruno and Nakia, I think her resolving with Bruno and Nakia is going to be kind of the finale of episode 6. I do believe Miss Marvel has been said that she might be getting a second season, but she's also coming in the Marvels, so it'll be really interesting to see where they pick up her story from the Marvels.
Problem with the Marvels, I mean, the Marvels is going to be great. I'm very much looking forward to it because it's going to be Captain Marvel, it's going to be Monica Rambeau, it's going to be Kamala. It's not going to focus on her and her like Pakistani heritage. It's not going to focus on New Jersey. Right? Like, I feel like the Marvels wouldn't do that unless the whole movie takes place in Jersey and it's just them doing Jersey stuff. But, like, I feel like we're going to lose a little bit of this Miss Marvel, Kamala-centric story when we go to the Marvels, right?
Yes.
So, like, Nakia's story isn't going to continue into the Marvels, right?
Maybe not. I think that's why they might do a season 2, which would make... season 2. I think like this, I know like we say a lot of shows need a season 2, but Miss Marvel is such, from the way it's looking right now, Miss Marvel is like probably one of the more grounded stories that actually, I don't think Miss Marvel would have worked as a movie, which like a lot of the shows could have, but okay, except for WandaVision and like Miss Marvel, I don't think Miss Marvel could have worked as a movie, which is why I think out of all the shows, she's the one who deserves the second season because it is more of like a grounded family type of story it seems like they're trying to tell and like she could help other Avengers and show up in that sense like she is in the Marvels, but I think her story is something that should stick to television.
I'm with you. I want like if any character deserves an ongoing TV series, it's Miss Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna do because I'm loving this so far. I don't know what I'm gonna do is if like episode 6 ends and like I gotta wait 5 years for another like season. No, like I want a season every year of this show.
Yes.
You know,
I agree. And I think what makes it as a show so wonderful is that the stakes are low. Low key for me, I think it was a good show. I just don't think the stakes worked as a show. Like, if we're gonna introduce something as big as the TVA, like that's something that I think should have been shown on the big screen. Or Moon Knight. I like Moon Knight. I really adore Moon Knight.
Yeah.
But like the whole concept of gods, to boil that down to a television show and not show that on the big screen, like I just think those stakes are way too high. But like Ms. Marvel's a smaller scale movie, like a story, and I know they're introducing the dimension, which is why I would be disappointed they went the time travel route, because it just like
it's too much.
It's too much.
I didn't want the time travel route, even though I said I thought that's what they were going with.
Right.
I don't want it because I do feel like we don't need it.
Exactly, and so like that's why I just hope that they keep it nice and simple and keep it as a TV show, because I think I know a lot of people say like a lot of the Marvel shows should feel like 6 hour movie cut up into episodes. Do you feel that way about Miss Marvel?
No. This is using like the episodic nature, you know, of TV and storytelling, because each episode is kind of its own story and then it links up to the next one. And there is an overarching thing, but like if this was a movie, she wouldn't have gone to Pakistan.
Exactly. She wouldn't have gone to Pakistan, which is why I like that that's why it feels episodic, is because like you said, each thing is its own. Like the first episode was more about Kamala's relationship with her family and, you know, her Pakistani background. The second episode was more about her relationship to her faith and her friends. The third episode is like kind of combining those two and also like shaping her up to be a superhero. And now it's like she's going kind of back to home base in episode 4. So it does follow that episodic nature of a different story, but an overarching one at the same time.
Yeah. I definitely think that this is not a movie split into 6 parts, which is good because I want that out of this. I want to feel like it wasn't stolen, like we didn't get a movie stolen from us, you know? And she will be in The Marvels. So like, I am very much looking forward to that. Here's a question for you as we wrap this up. What are the cameos? There's going to be a cameo at some point. What are the cameos we're getting in? Let's just say episode 6. Could be midway. It could be at the end of the episode. It could be a post-credit scene. What are the cameos we're getting?
Monica Rambeau or Carol Danvers is the biggest choice I'm going to go for.
I'm saying both of those, maybe a post-credit scene. Because that's leading us to the Marvels.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'm kind of thinking more of Monica Rambeau like working for S.W.O.R.D. and then finds her way to Kamala or something in that way. Carol Danvers would be great. I'm down for Carol Danvers too. It'd just be weird if you have both of them all of a sudden out of nowhere. I feel like Monica is easier to explain why she came to Kamala, because it's like, hey, I worked for S.W.O.R.D. Like, we noticed you're a superhero. Is everything good or something? Yeah. And then you pick up the Marvels or something from there.
I feel like narratively, like with the story, it would make the most sense to have Captain Marvel appear at the tail end, not to fight. But I think it's like imagine this. She pops down, Kamala turns around and sees her for real, and we pull like a Spider-Man thing where it's like, holy, and then it cuts. Like, like it's that like I feel like because in the first episode they built up Captain Marvel so much, I feel like we wouldn't have a payoff unless we literally see Captain Marvel.
Yes.
At the tail end of the series.
Yes, I agree. So I think it'll be like those are the only 2 cameos that I can see. I mean, none of the other Avenger. Oh, I mean, yes, the Inhumans actually.
Do you think the Inhumans could pop up?
I don't know. because technically the group of clandestines they're dealing with are expelled. So once the clandestines get caught, the actual group of Inhumans that are in charge could show up and be like, thanks for getting them. We've been trying to track them, like something like that.
Yeah.
I could see like Medusa coming in because I don't think we'll get Black Bolt. I just feel like Medusa's like the most probable one to show up if she does.
That'd be cool. Also, a lot of this show and the Marvel women in general, whether it's Monica or Carol, it's dealing a lot with matriarchy and I'm not gonna say girl power because I don't it doesn't it's beyond that point. But like it's dealing with female empowerment, it's dealing with matriarchy, in a patriarchal world, I guess, because we're dealing with the Muniba and her grandma and like this lineage that is not from the father's side. It's from the mother's side, right? Then you know, we're kind of dealing with that. I think that like Medusa could work for kind of pushing that theme.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, if Kamala learns that she's an Inhuman, I feel like she's gonna bond with Medusa. She wouldn't bond with Black Bolt.
No. Definitely not Black Bolt. I think Medusa would make the most sense.
Iman Vellani is fighting for Lockjaw. Did you hear about that?
I know. Yeah.
She wants Lockjaw to show up, and like that'd be cool.
I loved Lockjaw. I remember reading that comic run. This is so random, but I don't know why for some reason I thought Wolverine because I was thinking of like that one comic between the two of them, and it was so I like that comic. So I have a question for you though. I know we're not at the end of the series yet, but which Avenger outside of Carol Danvers would you like to see Kamala interact with?
Wong. Does Wong count? Because I want Wong to create. I have two ideas of what I want Wong to create. I want Wong to create an Agents of Atlas, which would be an Asian team.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. But I can also see Wong creating a Midnight Suns, which is the supernatural team.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't include Kamala. But like, I feel like Marvel's planning Wong on creating a team of some sort. Yes. So like, Wong is already like crossed over with Shang-Chi. I would love Shang-Chi and Kamala to meet.
Yeah.
I would love the actors seem to have like a friendship, and it's super cute.
Yes. I would probably say like after Carol Danvers, my biggest one would be Shang-Chi. Yeah. But also I kind of just want her to also meet Peter Parker a little bit.
Okay.
Oh my God. Wait. Also, I really wonder if she got impacted by the whole everyone forgets who Peter Parker is. And I also really want to know what Kamala, just as a superhero fan, thinks of the whole Peter Parker Mysterio thing. I feel like...
Oh. Well, we don't know unless, like, it's already happened. She's gotten, like, mind wiped, right?
Yeah, we don't know, but I don't know. Yeah. I like, because when you think of, like, Kamala as a superhero fangirl, all of a sudden now I just want to hear her opinions on, like, everything that's went down in the MCU so far.
Yeah. Well, because we saw that Ant-Man mural in the train station. I thought that was cool, right? It's these like
exactly.
Things. We live in a world of superheroes.
Yeah.
I also would like to see America Chavez because I think that these two would be friends. You know.
Yeah.
You know, Colin did point out, and I think Colin's just digging around or whatever, but like Black Bolt's actor film, like maybe he's saying he did film it or could have filmed a scene for this show and Multiverse of Madness at the same time.
Maybe.
I mean, it's possible.
It's possible.
You know? I mean, I could write, just like, I can literally, like, see the scene written in my head where it's this big epic buildup, Lockjaw and Black Bolt appear at the same time, and Kamala's, like, in awe, and Black Bolt thinks it's for him, and she's like, it's a doggy! Like, you know? And, like, pull a bait and switch kind of thing. For comedic purpose. I think that'd be super funny. There's a lot of good characters, but I feel like one of those that we just mentioned will show up.
Yes,
you know,
for sure.
I don't think Peter Parker will.
Sorry, my earphone came off. I'm gonna put it back in. I did not hear your question.
It's all right.
What did you say?
I said I don't think Peter Parker will show up.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
It would just be really random and out of the blue. But I do want to see them interact at some point.
Yeah. Though I think Peter's too young right now. Like he's only like 2 years older than Kamala, and I think it's weird that Peter Parker is 2 years older than Kamala. You know?
He's 2 years. No, I thought he was a year because Peter Parker's a senior and Kamala's a junior, right?
But I would assume that Peter Parker has graduated already.
Oh, I guess it depends on where Miss Marvel like falls into the Marvel timeline then.
Yeah. But the point being is like, it's weird though. Why is Miss Marvel a year or even 2 years? 2 years younger than Peter Parker? That's the same age then. They're going to join the Avengers at the same time. What's the point? What's the purpose of doing a Young Avengers or Champions if Peter is only like a year older than her?
But Peter Parker's not part of Young Avengers, right? So I don't know if they're going to.
No, Miles Morales is part of Champions.
Yes.
And well, technically Kamala's not part of Young Avengers either.
Yeah, she's part of. I haven't read any of the Champions comics, which there has been a lot of discussion about it. Are they going to put Kamala in Young Avengers, or are they going to let her lead her own team, the Champions? Which I haven't read the Champions.
I would love both of them to.
I would love both of them too. I mean, just like I would love to see Kamala do her own thing and not get.
I'm going to be honest. I like the Champions better than Young Avengers, even though I do like the Young Avengers.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really cool. Oh, there was like this one thing that came. I don't know if you saw it on TikTok, but something about Haley Steinfeld's makeup artist being credited in like one of the credits from one of the earlier episodes of Miss Marvel. So people were like, "Oh, Kate Bishop's gonna cameo now." Oh. I don't know. I saw that. I was really confused. I was like, I think you guys might be reaching, but also, I don't know. I thought so. If we're talking cameos, like there was that going on as well.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be excited. I mean, I love Haley Steinfeld and Kate Bishop, but I wouldn't be excited if suddenly at the end of this episode 6, like an arrow goes whoosh, and then she's like, "Who did that?" And she's like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, I'm not. That's not really where I want to see this.
No, same.
It has to build up to the Marvels.
Yes, it does. Like I feel like that's like the perfect cameos, the build up to the Marvels. So yeah, I don't have anything else.
Yeah. Colin says the Black Bolt comment was just him joking around. Yeah. And he doesn't think they'll do Spider-Man stuff because of Sony. I agree. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Spider-Man, they're pretty tight-lipped on a lot of the stuff. So, Rid, I wanna thank you so much for coming on another episode of the Miss Marvel Aftershow and talking with me about all this stuff. Obviously, thank you to everybody out there for watching and or listening. If you're watching us either live or after the fact at volume.com/The Keeg Show, twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. Shout out to Colin on YouTube. Shout out to Darth Chaco on Volume. If you want to see, if you're watching this in the, I guess after the fact, it's probably twitch.tv/The Keeg Show/videos. I think that's where we keep a little library of past Keeg shows and past after shows and whatnot. But if you're listening to us wherever your podcast's from. We're talking Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, that sort of thing. We're all over the place, podcasts or live streams. We got it all. Colin says, enjoyed the cultural perspective. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to bring in. Also, just being fans, I think, is like super important. Being able to dig into it in like multiple different ways. But Rid, where can we find you online? What do you have coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Sure. So you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I'm just at Marvel with Rid. I post a lot of like movies content. I talk a lot about Eternals and also Miss Marvel. I'm also like talking a lot about South Asian representation in media. So if you're interested in any of that, you can follow me in any of my socials. I also do have a podcast, which it's currently on hibernation, but we're working to bring that back. So if you're interested, you can also check out my podcast, Eternally Obsessed. Yeah, thank you for having me again. I really enjoyed talking Miss Marvel with you from all the different aspects. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. I'll also have you, next week when we have Maria come on. It'll be the three of us, and we'll be doing this at the same time next week. So for anyone out there who wants to to hop in next time and watch. We'll be doing this again next week. There's only 2 episodes left of Miss Marvel, so definitely stay tuned. Whether you listen to this as a podcast or watch the live stream, either way, we appreciate you. Follow us on social media at The Keeg Show, wherever you get your social media. TikTok and Instagram are 2 big ones for The Keeg, at The Keeg Show there. But we also on Facebook at facebook.com/The Keeg Show, or Twitter at The Keeg Show. We're also there. We are all over the place. So pretty much if you can think it, we're there at The Keeg Show or /The Keeg Show, no matter where you're at. And then, like, comment, subscribe, follow, click, do your thing. Let us know what you're thinking, ask questions, that sort of thing on social media. But other than that, thank you, Rid, so much for coming on. I look forward to seeing you next time. And once again, I'm your host, Dimitri Pereira, and this has been episode 4 of the Miss Marvel After Show. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Super strong or super fast. Gotta beat the boss and get the loot, 'cause it's the king.